Hey, this is George.
Hey, this is Fred.
This is Real Talk with George and Fresh. Fresh, what's going on, man? How are you?
Not much, man. This Sunday, brother.
Oh, yeah, man. Happy Sunday to you. How was your Sunday so far?
So far, so good. Watched a good movie. So relaxing. I'm like ready for, relaxing for a great show. How we do things. Watch some sports. Watch my Dolphin do the little thing.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah, man. Do you have time to go to church today, even virtually?
Probably virtually, yeah. Virtually, yeah. And then not yet. Not quite there yet.
No, man, I can dig it. Definitely dig it. Listen, man, we got a great show, another great one today. We have Miss Lannetta Farmer um,
Yeah.
on the show. And hold on. She's saying something about the sound. Let me bring it in. How are you, Mrs. Farmer? How you doing?
I think her mic is muted.
The mic is muted.
Yeah.
Oh, Miss Farmer, you have to unmute your mic.
There you go. Yeah. Can you hear?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear? I think you can hear us.
You said the sound is very choppy. I'm not sure on which side the sound is choppy, but we'll get that together. She has to unmute her mic. Can you hear me fine, Fresh?
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good. Probably no problem difficulties. Sometimes you sign in, it has that problem sometimes. If the internet and some of that. Say we have all the time. Chop chop here, chop chop there.
It works. As long as I can hear you fine, so we can definitely go on. Hopefully, she will get that together. We'll bring her back in when she's back on. But anyway, man. So, what's news? How are you dealing with this whole new NBA season? They're actually playing in the stadiums with nobody there.
You see that? They're doing I call it a wide version of the bubble. They're spinning the bubble.
Oh, it's crazy. It's literally almost like a scrimmage.
Pretty much, because nobody there, and some teams rely on the fans to actually play and be productive. So they're gonna use that as excuse where we ain't had the fans. That's why we played so terrible. No, you were terrible at get go. It got nothing to do with the fans.
Yeah, and they're running these rotations, trying to just get players runs. But I'm just surprised. Like I'm watching these games, and I'm like, wow, there's nobody there. Where do you get their energy from?
You gotta be yourself. I mean, it'd be realistic. When you're in college, did you need many players? No, you just playing for yourself. I mean, the only difference now is it's a better practice. Instead of playing against your teammates, you're playing against somebody else. I mean, so now you look terrible, you look terrible. And nobody can't really brag on you. I mean, think of it this way. The commentators can't really brag on that one too much. They can't really rag on them too much because they ain't even there. They do virtual. So they can't really say how they're playing or how the strategy is. They can't do none of that too much. So you got a bigger advantage. I mean, LeBron love it because, hey, they won in the bubble, so they're used to it now. So they're good at it. Now, the other teams now, the ones who didn't show up or some of the teams that had an issue with COVID and everything and that, they still building because, I think some players are still testing positive. So a lot of them have to stay out of the stadium. So a lot of them don't have all their starting lineups or the team. And not to mention the trade. Look at that trade what happened in Houston and Washington. They traded Westbrook for John Wall. I mean, everything happened and it's crazy. Which I don't see why that trade even happened because it's very similar in style, just only difference one party may let one lead better than the other.
That's true. It's true. Well, look, trades happen. I mean, that's just a part of the game. But it's just like everybody's trying to find that sweet spot, trying to put together that super team.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's all about team's chemistry. It doesn't matter. Like I was listening to an interview with Gilbert Arenas and Shannon Sharp, and he makes very good points. A lot of players. Oh, she left. Oh,
she left. She has to log back in.
Okay, and a lot of the players had issues with playing with called ball hoggers. They had a Kobe's back in the day where the Kobe's played and they could go 80, 90 points a game. That's cool, you know. But when it comes down to it, he made a good point. You cannot win with that mentality. You cannot win with that mentality. You have to have a a player that can be as a versatile as he can build a team around. Not he is the team,
Right.
And they asked the question, so who would you pick? Either Durant or LeBron. He picked LeBron because he said he can build a team on LeBron. You can't build a team on KD, but KD more of I'm a score mentality where I'm winning that way.
Right.
Man, LeBron, he used to be that way, but he learned how to vary that. Come on, he came to Miami, he learned how to play ball. I don't care
Right.
what nobody say, how do you want to put it. He learned to play ball in Miami. He learned to have fun when you playing ball. That's very rare. Now he plays for the game. He don't play like he was in Miami. He's not having fun. He having fun, but not the fun he had in Miami. They were doing stuff in Miami that I don't think no team can replicate. I mean, you been throwing the ball like halfway down the court, not even looking at it, and the guy catches it and dunk it. I mean, you can't do that no more. Team don't have that kind of chemistry. That's difference between a winning team and a losing team. And look
Right.
at Golden State. They had that chemistry, but now what happened? It's hard to sustain that team.
Well, yeah. I mean, the reason why it's hard to sustain the team is one, money. Okay, because a lot of the players that help win those championships are not getting compensated the way their superstars are. You see what I mean? And you also have to look too that some of those players didn't take some of the, in other words, they left money on the table to keep the team together. You see what I
Exactly.
mean? Whereas they could have gone other places or forced the team to max them out and pay them what they should have gone. And so you had Draymond Green and you had a few other people that were quote unquote good players and took one for the team, but they never, they were never really compensated for it, which caused grievance. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
Because some of the other superstars that should have took one for the team didn't. You see what I mean? The people that could afford it.
That's true. That's true because you gotta look at it this way. When you had a team, the team was good. There's nothing wrong with the team, everything working perfectly. But like I tell people, in order to sustain a winning team, every winning team had to go through the same issue, believe it or not. Once you
Right.
win the championship, how can you keep them happy? 'Cause a lot of them now have egos. They have egos now. Something they had before because they didn't win a championship. Now they have that I'm a championship chip on their shoulder. Look, guy tell them, hey, you want more money. You deserve more money. Get more
Right.
money. Instead of saying, it's for the team. It's for the team. We are a team.
True.
And that what happened in Miami. And even though I always know keep playing better Miami because I'm a team, whatever. But if you watch Miami play, they played like the Bulls did. But on different, the Bulls was serious. Heat was playing. They were having fun. No boy forgot about records and just having fun. Just to have fun and doing something. You're a better competitor. Because you don't
Absolutely.
see that person in front of you. You see them as competition. You good? I'm good. Let's do this. And it make you grow up as a player and develop as a person.
That's
Now
true.
we say Dwayne Wade. I'd say Dwayne Wade learned from Shaq. Shaq taught Dwayne Wade how to be a better player. And in return, he did the same thing to Bosh, to LeBron. He helped them play as a team. So look, we can win as a team with even anybody we have because we are nucleus. Once you
Right.
got nucleus, everybody can play together and have that one group that think alike, same goal, same common goal. It's a big difference. It's not
It's
about
true.
ego.
It's true. Well, we'll leave it there on basketball. We won't talk about football because we got Miss Farmer back and we
Yeah.
got our audio together. Welcome to Real Talk.
How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good.
Good, good,
That's
good.
good. Look at it, just smiling over there, relaxing. Look at it.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to the show. Fraser and I always try to give our guests bios, but we always butcher it. So we just let our guests do their bios on the show, tell them a little bit about the background and things that they're into, and then we start the inning from there. So please tell the fans a little bit about yourself.
Well, you already know my name's Lannetta, but I have two children, 20-year-old girl and a 12-year-old son that just turned 12 on Thanksgiving. Just a single mom out here doing the work of the Lord. Like that is literally my motto every day. I just get up, with the purpose that God has given me to get up and do the best that I can, to be the best of who I can, and whatever it is that day that, comes along to do, that's what I do. I know my purpose has been definitely to help young girls not become women of bitterness, not become women of statistics, but to become, great citizens, just great women and great mothers. And so, that's what I try to do. I help them in every way, form or fashion. I counsel them, keep them in things and dance and, just things that they're interested in so that they don't fall to the wayside where society will leave them and not care about them. And that's just pretty much me every day. I kind of dibble and dabble a little bit of everything. I own a variety of my own businesses, very creative, do things like t-shirts and, you know, um, just really anything, a lot of memorabilia. People will give it to me that's old and just ask me to, turn it into something a little bit more modern, a little bit more new. Um, I've had my own wedding business since 2005. So, I do that and I've done events for, various people. I'm from California. So that is where I was born and raised at up until the time I was in my early 20s. Got married, relocated, got divorced, and now I'm just here setting up shop in Ohio, trying to figure out what else it is God has for me to do.
Absolutely.
That's good.
So, how many businesses do you have? Frazier and I both are entrepreneurs in the real estate. I'm an author. Frazier's coaching. I'm still teaching martial arts. We just
You do
keeping
everything.
the wheels turning. So let everybody know,
Right.
you know, um, how many businesses you have. And the reason why I'm saying that is because some people are
Mm-hmm.
content with one job, some people are content with two
Mm-hmm.
jobs, but everybody doesn't really understand that you have to have at least 5 to 7 hustles that are generating money for you. So when one slips,
Yeah.
you have one coming back in. And it's not necessarily that you're managing all that, but those type of investments that are yielding monthly residuals for you are crucial.
Yes, absolutely. And, I live by that daily. As the word of God tells us, we don't want to waste the gifts and the talents that God gives to us. So everything that He puts in me, I want to make sure that, I'm putting that out into the world, that it's blessing somebody else. And I think a lot of people don't realize, even if you're making money from it and profiting, everything you do is ministry, because whatever you're doing, you're still blessing and ministering into somebody's life, the gift that God has given you. And so, again, I have the Heaven Sent event planning. It used to be known as Pampered Divas events. I still have people that kind of get hold to me under that. But
Mhm.
once I learned what divas meant, I moved away from using the word diva. And so I changed everything. A lot of people would just be like, oh my God, once I do something, they'd be like, oh my God, you're so heaven sent, or this is heaven sent. And so that's how that name came about. So I have Heaven Sent Creations, which is where I do like my t-shirts, my mugs, different things like that. I created a memoriam box for those who may know Tabitha. What is that? Lord, I forgot her last name. Tabitha on, face or the Instagram and TikTok, star, and she's played in a couple of movies. But then I also have again the event planning business. I do have, it's not in motion, but we're setting in motion. I'm getting ready to open up a group home prayerfully here in the next 5 years. So we have Young Mothers Striving for Excellence, where again, girls can get counseling. We deal with them with after school events, and that's a nonprofit. So we have that. I also have Heaven Sent Accessories, where I also sell jewelry and things like that. So just everything around the nature of what an event planner would be, anything
Mhm.
outside of the scope of that, I do as well. And just kind of, never want to be that person where they say you're a jack of all trades but a master of none. So I try to very very creative, and there's so many things that God has put in my hand, and there's really nothing that I found that I couldn't do. But, like you said, I just try to grab the ones that I know that I can do and be good in those avenues so that I can give people the best quality and quantity, and try not to spread myself too thin.
Oh yeah, I've discovered over the years the fact that any vision or wisdom that the Lord gives you, He also gives you a way to execute it. You know, because
Right.
there are a lot of things that I still have yet to do, but I know He gave me that vision and told me I was going to be a part of that 12 years ago or 15 years ago. And sometimes
Right, right.
sometimes the reason why it hasn't come to fruition yet is either the people that were supposed to meet me in this journey we haven't met yet, or my level of
Mhm.
maturity to handle it wasn't there yet. You know what I mean? And it's
Yes,
building to get there. So understanding
yeah,
that, when people be like, a master of or whatever, none, I understand what you're saying, but I know that every vision the Lord has
yeah,
given me
Mhm.
has proven fruit. Every vision. The only
yeah,
time that it didn't prove
yeah,
when I was like, oh Lord, I'm not doing that. Oh no, I'm not doing that.
yeah.
No, you got to go find somebody else. I'm definitely not doing that. And he'll be
Right. No, I get it.
right. But check this out. He'll be here
Exactly. Hey.
10 years
Yeah.
later, Frage. He'll be here 10 years later, and the exact same thing he told me to do. I'll be like, okay, Lord, I'm tired of you beating me up now. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm gonna go ahead and just go do it now. 10 years later. Ten
Exactly.
years later.
Yeah.
Craziness. But
You
I
know
wanted
the limit.
Yeah, man. But I wanted to circle back on what
Yeah.
you said about diva, because that word is used so prevalently in social media and marketing.
Mhm.
Can you let the fans know exactly how that word was meant and intended to be used?
Well, it is actually came about from devil worshippers, and it is a spirit of somebody who is very boisterous. It very much holds the Jezebel spirit that they talk about, that is jealous and overbearing and loud and unruly. And so when I hear people, especially our queens of who we are in the Black community, I try to educate, but try not to at the same time while educating try not to make them feel like I'm belittling or judging because that's not the case. But just want women to know that you don't want to use that word in the point that it was literally made in the point of being a spirit. Diva is a spirit and it's not a good spirit to carry. So with that being said, I didn't want to have my business named after that, especially if it wasn't who I'm exuding. Because I've never been a diva. I've never ever carried the spirit of being boastful and just overbearing. And a lot of people, especially Black women, more than any women, are given that title of being a diva because it's always that angry Black woman or the loud Black woman. So I just took it upon myself to be the example to steer away from it, and take a different route to it.
The amazing thing
Right.
about that is almost everything that is meant to belittle us or put something on us, people speak into you. It's
Yeah.
always done in public
Mhm.
and it's always done flashy, so you don't even know that it's actually happening to you.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
realized that when I read a book called Prayers That Rout Demons. You know what I mean? Because that book
Yes, I've read
actually
that.
exposed everything that was out there. And I'm like, holy smokes, this has been in the culture for 30 years. This has been in the ethos
Mhm.
for 50 years. Who knew
Yeah.
all the things that we get hit with, but we're just so ignorant. Ignorant is the wrong word. We're just not educated enough to see
Right.
exactly how it's being used
Yeah.
in everyday society to the point that we become, what's that word? When you numb to it.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Exactly. That is just
It's
true.
crazy.
Yeah.
It goes back farther than that. It goes back to slavery. We were programmed to be a certain way. We were programmed to act and think or be a certain way. And then how something go out, something does not. And why we didn't go over it because it got worse because you have kids who are born into that. So that's all they know of. So
Yeah.
as they grow, they teach
Right.
their kids, and it continue to grow and grow.
Yeah.
So it's why it's harder to break that cycle. It's hard to break something that's just been there for hundreds of years versus something that's been there last week or year before last. You
Right.
know, and that's why I say it's always
Mhm.
good to have somebody who can express that and actually notice that and express and have young women to understand that they don't have to do certain things in order to be successful. They don't have to like I tell
Right.
you, why you do music and I just tell a female artist and she come in and says, but they want me to be a little sexier. They want me to do this. But why? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about dressing a certain way, doing this, doing that? Do you feel comfortable with it? She said no, then don't do it. If anything feel comfortable outside of what your norm is, and you know it's wrong, and you feel that your body's wrong, you'll do it.
That's
You
right.
know, you don't do it. And it's funny, people always blame on family. People always blame on everything. Oh, she saw this, he saw this. It's not about that. Sometimes you have this decision to make it, but you need somebody to validate it. Somebody you see somebody else who actually being successful
Yeah.
in doing that. And that's what I think that what your reputation is for the young women. If they see that you're doing it, they see you can be accomplished things. They see you can do everything
Yeah.
besides having to do that person the media want them to be. Social media want them to act like, Like I see stuff right now,
Right.
it's the point it's boring now, because everybody doing it, you know, and like nobody do something different,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
So let me ask a question.
Hmm.
So piggyback what you said about young girls, like what other programs you have that you influence young girls? Like I know I saw one thing you said you also help them out with, like when they have kids and stuff like you get packages, you can make a little care package for them and stuff, and you educate them. Like tell more about that program you offer do that.
Well, that's more for the older women, not the younger women. We usually, what I do is I ask donations for women to send me purses. And inside of the purses, I'll put things like condoms, deodorant, just things to keep them street for or clean for women who are on the street, and just educating them, let them know that, there is a better way. There's always an avenue of help, regardless of whether they feel like they can't get it. And again, that's just a society thing that a lot of women don't get the help they need because they're made to be afraid to ask for it. It's not that they don't want the help, but they're always being demeaned. They're always made to feel a certain way. And then people be like, oh, well, why don't you go do this? Or why don't you go to this shelter? Because when they do, they're being mistreated. When they do, they're not welcome with open, loving arms, which is what they need, love. But they're met with judgment. They're met with ridicule. They're met with, all these other different obstacles that they have to try to get over that they shouldn't have to when they're already trying to get over one hurdle. So we just put as much information in there, as much help as we can. We offer them prayer if they want it. If they don't, it's just letting them know somebody's out here thinking about you. Somebody's out here loving you. Other than that, for the young girls, I try to once every 3 months, we have what we just call it the conversation, and we bring them in and we literally give them a stack of index cards and a pencil, and it's for the young men and the young women, and it ranges from the ages of 12 to 24. And we let them come in. They could put whatever they want on a card. I mean, just ask whatever question. We've even had some, we were able to say to young girls as they put on the card that they were in a home that they weren't supposed to be in, being sex
Mhm.
trafficked. And we were able to get them help, because they wrote it on a card. And afterwards, they don't have to put their name, but, just questions that they might not be able to ask at home, might not be able to ask at school. It's a safe place for them to ask the questions. And we have a panel. I usually have a panel of people that I put together that can answer these questions. And afterwards, we let them know, we open it up. If anybody needs prayer, if anybody wants to talk to somebody one-on-one, they can. And, there, if they need the help that we can offer them, we give it to them. But for me, that's just my heart right there because, I just feel like we're leaving the children behind. It's so much chaos in the world as adults. It's new to everybody and we're trying to figure it out. But in the midst of us trying to figure it out, we're leaving them behind and it's being detrimental for them. They're killing themselves, they're killing each other, they're coming up missing, but nobody's talking about it because we're so concentrated on
Right.
45, 46. And, we're
Right.
so concentrated on the pandemic and what's happening. We're not taking the time out to remember we still have children that are missing, children that are hungry, children that are hurting. And that's my whole thing is children don't ask to be here. And that's been my heart
That's
since
right.
I can think of is I just want to make sure that every child has a voice and every child is heard of, and especially young women, just because of the life that, I live, that young women have a way to say, hey, this is happening, and that they don't have to grow up in the hurt and the bitterness that causes a lot of us women, especially Black women, to be so independent and bottled up. And like Fraser said, it stems all the way back from, slavery. They took our men out of their homes. They made us to be these women who couldn't lean on our men, who couldn't lean on our community. And now it's just so embedded in our head, we don't know how to ask for help. We don't know that we can need it, and it's very damaging to us as women. But I love that I see now Black women, are getting married now more often. We're staying married. We're not so stuck in being alone. We're allowing our men to step up and be who they need to be, to us, the kings to our queens. And so that's just my purpose with the young women, especially, even though, again, I do help young men as well. but just with the young women, especially because we are the anchor to the world. And a lot of people can take that in a different way. But at the end of the day, not only as, just a Black woman, but as a woman, period, as a mother, nobody could be here without us. We have so much on the weight of our shoulders where, men may not. Not to say there's not single men who have to dwell with stuff, but they still don't have to dwell with the weight of the world. Just like Mother Nature is Mother Nature and it caters to the earth, it caters to the world. So does a woman. And, with that, I just want to make sure that every young woman as she's coming up is centered so much in God, that she's centered in herself, that doesn't become a weight that she cannot bear, because we're meant to carry it. And so I just want to make sure that they're carrying it in the wealth and the strength of the Lord and not of themselves.
That's a great point. Now I have to deconstruct that. And the reason why I'm saying deconstruct that is because our youth is lost. We have so many things coming at
Yeah.
us from social media, to images of what beauty is, to what images of what
Mhm.
success is. As people of
Yeah.
color, we wear 80% of our wealth on our back, and our
Right.
counterpart puts 80% of their wealth into assets. They're taught at a young age what an asset is and what a liability is.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why
Yeah.
somebody in their 40s has a retirement plan, but a person of color, somebody in their 40s, they're still working for a week to week paycheck. They don't have
Absolutely.
that. They don't have that true understanding of generational wealth. That's the first thing, is the
Right.
financial slavery that is ingrained
Yeah.
through that particular process. But I
Absolutely.
wanted to talk to you more about what you just said concerning young black girls, because just like young black boys were taken away and kind of molded into these mandingos, quote
Hmm.
unquote, so to
Yeah.
speak, in
Yeah.
society, it was the women that actually had to raise these boys into men. And I think that that's where a lot of us fell short, not because my father was a workaholic, so I only saw him on the weekends if I saw him.
Hmm.
That still doesn't mean I
Right.
didn't have an absentee father. You see what I mean? For a
Exactly.
Right.
person that could answer the questions that I needed to answer. I got a lot of those questions from my mother. So the reason why I didn't stick was because I
Yeah.
was like, she don't know what I'm going through.
Exactly.
You see what I mean?
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
I'm alive today because the prayers of my mother and my grandmother. Because I was so hard headed, I used to run the streets. See what I mean? Um, but that being said, that's the role that black women had to slide into to save a generation,
Yeah.
and that's not an easy role to have or maintain. But we see in Black America, most of the success that comes out of Black America, when you hear, "Oh, I thank my mother, I thank my grandmother," you see what I mean?
Exactly.
How do you?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a two-part question. So, how do you prepare young young black girls and young ladies to be able to step into that role, or at least have them to be able to expect that? And then secondly, you know, Christianity and faith is something that has been beat to death in this country. It's been used to enslave people
Hmm.
physically and mentally. It's used
Hmm.
now in politics, and you start to see a lot of people leaving the church because they like, look, if I got to go through all that in church, I might as well stay in the streets. You know what I mean? It just
Exactly.
Right.
too much. How do you bring that together? Bring the faith together. Bring the foundation together. Bring the how do I say this? Bring the tools that they need to succeed.
Oh, and that's a good question because you said it's a two part. It still seems like a one part, but I get what you're saying. Because for me, that's what it is. It's understanding. Because I was born and raised Pentecostal, so I would answer the second question first. I was born and raised Pentecostal, so like you said, just beat and bred into me. But what I learned as I got older is what I wasn't learning as a child was how to have a relationship with God. I was taught religion, and that's what kills people. That's what is shoved down our throats. It's the religion of it all. It's the politics of it, and things like that. And that's where we have to break that part down and understand that it's a relationship and the spirituality that you have with God that's going to carry you and cause you to stand up and withstand all of the things of the world. And that's what I give to them, because I do have a couple of young ladies, as in myself, who are single mothers to male children. And the thing that, and I have a friend, and me and her go back and forth all the time. I love her to pieces, to heaven and back. But I tell her all the time, she calls herself, like on Father's Day, she celebrates herself and things like that. And I'm like, you cannot do that, because as women, that is the mistake I believe so many women make, is that we stand up to try to be the father our male children need. And we cannot do that. We just cannot be the man that they need us to be. We cannot teach them how to be men. We cannot teach them the things that men do. So in that regard, as a woman that is a, mother that is a child to a male, what I can do is I can teach him literally how to be the best person he can be. I can teach him, how to be a man of God that he's supposed to be. I can teach him how to treat a woman, in the best way, because I know how I want to be treated. I know how he should treat a woman. And in that aspect, all I can pray is that somebody will come along with the male questions he needs, because regardless, I believe that every male has always had somebody, whether it's been a teacher, whether it's been a coach, whether it's been a co-worker, somebody in their life has come along and give them some sense of what they need in their manhood, any type of advice. So whether it comes now or whether it comes in his early 20s, I know that somebody will come along and pull his coattail and say, hey, young man, this is the way to do this. And because I have embedded in him, to be the man of God that he needs to be, how I've embedded in him how to be a great person and how to love God and, have that spirituality within himself and how to treat a woman, that he will then be able to positively take that information. It won't be him bucking up at another man like, nah, I know what I'm talking about, whatever, but he'll be able to take in that information. So with that being said, to, answer the question, it's first just letting them know and teaching them how to be in a relationship with God and love themselves first. Because if we cannot take care of ourselves as women, there's nothing we can do for anybody else. And that's something I've had to learn, in my late adulthood, as I feel, just I'm only 38, but just in my early 30s, learning how to love myself and how to see myself as God sees me, not as society sees me, not as my parents or my siblings or my friends or my counterparts see me, but just see myself in a sense of how God sees me and how, to love myself. And then in that respect, I can love and do all that I need to do, not just for my children, but for friends, for family members, for coworkers. Right. And, that's basically just what I give my girls when they come to me is, you got to learn how to love and do what you need to be for yourself, so then that you can do what you need to be for the world.
That is true. That is, other people say like it's hard to me, and when I found out how hard to be a father or to be a parent when I had to raise my son, and I understand how it's difficult for a single parent to raise a child or raise more than one child, because you have so much weight on your shoulder. Not only you got the responsibility for financial responsibility, you got the responsibility to be able to keep that person online, keep them maintained, make sure he's straight, make sure they straight and narrow. And I tell you what, I was so blessed that mother that I had, because the fact of the matter is, she taught me so many things. She knows to do with me. And she taught me things I didn't know, because as I got older, by being on me on the side, staying on me, make I be right, staying narrow. And she showed me how to treat a woman, how a woman should be treated, how a woman supposed to be treated. How I should be, how to act for people, how should I always look at people as how you want to be treated. And the fact of it is, I commend everybody, because it's a hard job to do. And I don't think people really understand how hard it is to do, to be that single person, to be that heart, to be that rock, especially for a male. Because like I say, we're hard-headed. Growing up, we're probably one of the hard-headed bunch of little kids we were, because we know everything. However look at it. And I tell you, the difference between 70 kids growing up, and George probably read it too, we were more we learned how to be men by watching other men be men.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, I had uncles who was there for me. I had people, they were always, I had somebody there, I had older guys who were teaching me how to understand what it is to be a man and help my mother out sometimes. And I tell you, that's why my mentality was so above my age, because I was always around older people, older men.
Right.
Who, look, you can't do this. Don't do that. Son, I slapped dog my son. Don't do that. What? I mean, okay, I got you. So, I mean, it shows how people care. And I implement that now when I coach, when I was mentoring youth, when I do youth boot camps and stuff. And I was like that figure, like that mother figure to or dad figure, because I was taught to be nurturing. Like some men who don't know that,
Yeah.
they know both sides. I learned both sides, and
Yeah.
it helped me out with a lot of kids. And like I tell a story about one kid. He had both parents. It's always he had both parents, not one parent, both parents. But it worked like George said. It worked a lot. They're workaholics. They always constantly working. He ended up getting in the game, and he ended up being a leader. Going to jail. All right, I'm about to go to jail, and everybody left him. How he got to jail was they went to beat somebody up, and everybody left him. All the boys, so-called family, left him hanging. He had taken a rap for him, and the grace of God,
Yeah.
the people knew who his parents was. They said, "Look, I can't put him in jail. I'm gonna take it to the parent." So it took it to the parent, and the parent brought him to us, and it was a heartbreaking story at the same time. But we understand what was going on. The kid was like really tough. Oh, you can't tell me that. That's how he was, and it's hard to get to kids like that because they went to the streets for that extra person.
Right.
They went to the streets for that father figure or that mother figure or whatever. They got in the streets, and probably when a kid gets in the streets, it's hard to pull them back in. It's very hard to pull them back in because now you got to prove yourself to them. You got to prove your worth that you're there for them. You love them for them, how to do them. So I can relate what you were saying about young ladies who in the streets or whatever. Got a young girl, 14 years old, who dad worked, his mom left him. And he had to raise her by himself. And it's hard. It's harder for a man to raise a little girl than I think a woman to raise a little boy. We don't know nothing about raising a girl at all. We don't know how emotions, how to go through the roller coaster. We don't know. He went to there's a grown man really crying for help. He was crying for help. And he said, like, I work all nonstop. Bills have to be paid. And it broke his heart to find out his daughter, 14 years old, was prostituting at 14. And we don't know why. She told him because we need help. I wanted to help you, Daddy. He said, baby, that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
And it broke his heart to see this 14-year-old daughter see the pain he was going through in order just to make ends meet. That's why I tell you it's hard. And people don't understand how the way you treat mercy girl make understand it's a blessing to them. They may not know it now. They may not know it later on. But they could be the same one come back to you and say, you know what, Mr. Netta, it was you. You saved my life. Regardless how you look at it. Because I know some people give up on them, especially ones that I don't need help. Yeah. But the fact you stay there with them and you continue to go out there consistently, it's gonna pay off in the long run. Believe I say that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is to be consistent and not just be consistent, but understanding that the one thing that children need is love and construction. At the end of the day, when they just don't feel like there's anybody there, when they don't feel like anybody's listening. And again, we're just in a place where society is raising our children and technology is raising our children. And that's where we're going wrong. We cannot allow that to happen. And we've gotten out of the place. And I can't even say gotten out of place because, again, from the very beginning of time, it was just bred into us that if you look at other community of people, it takes a village to raise a child.
Exactly.
You hear people say that all the time, but we've never been able to be the village to raise our children together. And because, it's always every man for itself, and don't let somebody say something to my child and I'm all out of sorts, and that's where the problem lies. We have to get to a place where we're unified within ourselves. And, that we're going to reel our children back in, especially, our young men. And at the end of the day, the only thing, I had a conversation with a young lady the other day, and she was asking that question. I said, at the end of the day, the only thing we can do is do this. Because of the parents you have, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to continue on the generational, or a lot of people say generational curse, but, the generations of all the wrongdoing. Or because of how your parent was, you're going to take this time, like you said, Frazier is, or my father wasn't there maybe, or he was an absentee father. So what it is going to cause me to stand up and be a better father. Or you're going to follow in his footsteps. It's only going to do one or two things, so it's just that 50-50 chance. And you have to see, like, even in a point of me, after being married for 13 years and getting a divorce, I was very, very, very angry, with my ex-husband at first. But I've come to an understanding now is I can't be mad at him for what he never had to give me or my children in the first place. I came from a two-parent home, very loving home. Unfortunately, my father passed away when I was 15, but up until that point, very loving father, worked hard, and even in his working hard was still available, and that's where you have to understand that a man that can still be readily available for his children and his family and still work extremely hard to provide for them, that's the example we want our men to exude and be. And so with that being said, he didn't have that. He wasn't raised by his father. He was raised by his mother, his grandmother, and two of his aunts, around a whole bunch of women who still weren't women who stood in a place of excellence. These were women who were out doing, everything and anything and not being great examples to their children. So I couldn't, as much as that's what he would always say to me, I'm going to be a better man than my dad was to me. He never did things to put himself in a position to do that. So what happened is he just followed after his dad's footsteps. And though he was a great father while we were together, once we separated, where he would take his kids out for ice cream every day, do homework with them, laugh, joke. As soon as we separated, I think he's probably, we've been separated 12 years now. He's probably seen my son 12 times, doesn't call every day. So that type of thing, because now what he's doing is he's just understanding that what his father did is the norm. And he's only doing what he knows to do because that's what he's seen and that's what he knows. He doesn't know to do any better. So I can't be angry with him for the absence that he's exuding in his life now because it's what was given to him. The love that he's not showing is what was given to him. So I can't ask him to give something that he was never capable of giving in the first place.
Well, that's true. But
True.
I always say when you don't know better, you don't do better. You know, and because of
Right,
what my father put me through, I made it a point to be my anti-dad. And what does that mean? Is everything that he did, I didn't do.
right,
I work,
exactly.
but I work from home. I don't stay out past 12 o'clock unless I'm with my family. You know what I mean? It's to the point now that if my daughter feels like I'm going someplace, she'll ask me, "Where you going?" You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's always putting those things in place because, like you said, my kids need to know that I'm a present father, not an absentee
right.
or not something else that's so important than them. Because as parents, what they don't understand is you have a finite amount of time with your kids. And then after that, all you have is pictures and memories. That's it. Is you don't get a do over,
Yeah,
you don't get anything. You know what I mean? And there's gonna come a time
right.
when your kids are gonna be like, look, okay, I'm done with the mommy daddy thing. Boom, I'm grown or I want to be grown and I'm gone. You see
Exactly.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Exactly.
And then, all you that's all you have. So you have to embrace that and take it for
Hmm.
everything that it's worth now. Because when you die,
Yeah,
that's all you get to take with you. I tell people all the time,
that is
I've been
true.
to I've been to a few funerals, but I've never seen a U-Haul hooked up to the casket. You don't take any of that with you.
Come on.
All you take is your
Right.
memories, the memories that you make and the memories that you have, and
Yeah.
the regrets. That's all you take with you. I wanted to transition onto that. How many clients do you guys have in your ministry that you service right now?
It's just so scattered. I can't even put really a number to it. Um, just because since the pandemic, we haven't gone back into the church. And, our pastor is just looking at, where we're going to go from here because, again, we just been virtual. And
Hmm.
so, we have about a good, 40, 50 people that are still staying linked in. But again, with them not having a physical, place to come to, it's just kind of everything and everywhere. Anything could be in the time frame of what you need to do versus, and I don't know how that works because for me, it doesn't matter. Even if I'm at home, if it's Sunday, I know that I would have been in church from noon to 2, So at the
Right.
Exactly.
end of the day, when I'm at home, my house knows it's time to be quiet. I don't care what you're doing. You know that I'm in Zoom service from 12 noon. I still give that undivided attention, to the Lord. So, like I said, everybody's just scattered, and some people don't have that mind frame. It's like, now I'm at home, the kids are running around, I don't have time to sit down on a computer and give, 2 hours or whatever, or they'll put it on, they might be listening. So we don't really know a good number, but we still have, quite a few that still are linked in, and we're on Bible study every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on noon, and Zoom noon at 12 every Sunday, at noon. And we still have different services for our youth. Like we just had one back in November where we brought a young lady in from Texas, who is starting her youth ministry. And, just brought our youth in and still give them the presence, of understanding that we're still here for them and, if they need us.
So let me ask you, from the pandemic, um, has it helped you? Has it broadened your ministry? Do you get to more people because you can get to them online? And just to follow up that second part of that question, how do you keep them accountable?
Mhm. Absolutely. For me, more than anything, because I feel like I've reached more than what we've ever would have reached in, um, being in the church house. Like I even just the way I came to TikTok was just the fact that somebody sent me a video of a young girl, just knowing that the ministry I do with young girls. And she was like, hey, could you try to reach out to her? Because she was on TikTok talking about taking her life. And I was able to reach her, able to contact her and actually get her phone number. And, oh, try not to cry. But it's just such an amazing experience and it was the first time I ever experienced. I mean, I've been in a place for praying people and they've given their lives to God and doing all this, but to hear this young woman just talk about taking her life and just in this downward place. And I prayed with her and prayed with her. And at the end of it, still not knowing when
Right.
I hung up that phone if her life was going to be viable the next day. But yet 4 days later, she made a video on TikTok and looked so much different than she did in the video before. Just, I mean, beautiful, just glowing and talking, giving me the shout out saying that she had given her life to God due to the prayer and the conversation that we had had. And she understood she had much to live for, and I just talked to her 2 days ago. She signed up in school. She's doing what she needs to do. And I feel like, this girl is all the way in Florida. And here I am in Ohio, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. And so, now I've gotten even up to a point, never did I even think I'd be at 2,500 followers in just a 2 months time, but that's what I am. And I have so many people on TikTok who are constantly, even if they're praying for me or sending me out prayers, constantly, can you pray for me for this? Can you pray for me for that? And I have a phone number, a web number that I give out. And so, so many people call me or text me and, I just constantly take those things and put them in my prayer box and give it to God. So for me, like you said, the pandemic has just opened up my eyes to understand that it's not about me. And I've heard that all of, my life in church, that it's not about you, about something greater. But I believe the pandemic just pushing us into a place of being in technology where we can reach people we might not have physically been able to reach. Just
Right.
understanding that the way you walk, talk, and live your life, according to the will of God, is now seen on a spectrum where you can't fake who you are anymore.
That's
You
right.
can't hide under a rock. You can't put on makeup and just say, this is me, because people are looking at you in a sense of your life where they see the raw you, living through technology. And so with that being said, I believe it's just caused me to stand up to be the greater version of me that God, created me to be. And I can't hide behind, maybe the other elders or pastors in the church. I can't hide behind my job. I can't hide behind that. I now have to stand up and literally be who God called me to be.
Nice.
That is true. That is true. Pick up TikTok. That's how I found you. TikTok to me has opened a lot of wide doors that probably would never opened up for some people, and you can help people through certain platform now that before you couldn't do because you had no access to. Like I was saying, when I was going, I had with MySpace,
Right.
Or Yahoo. Now it's everything at 45 and more popping up,
You
And,
forgot AOL. You got mail.
oh, you got
I forgot all about AOL.
I really want the dollar.
Right.
Dream right there. Hello. The little guy running across the screen. Hit 12, get there. He need a wheelchair. He need a wheelchair. He wish where he was going. But like, what are you think your greatest accomplishments are? And if you had any disappointments, what were they? What was they? and what did you learn from them?
Um, for me, honestly, I believe my great. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Every time somebody comes to the door, she barks like that. But for me, my greatest accomplishment is being a mother, and I say that because I never wanted children. But when I had children, especially my daughter, like it was such a wake up call and such a thing that even in my mind, when I was like, this is not what I want out of my life, it was just something that rose up in me that became just a protector. And I was like, no matter what, she's mine. Nobody's going to take care of her like that. Like, I didn't even really dive into motherhood until she was about 8, which is when my son came along. And, which is crazy. So for 8 years, I was just robotically doing what I felt I was obligated to do as a mother.
Yeah.
But now I've gotten to a point where I feel like, you know, here she is at 20 and I'm just seeing her blossom and seeing her, grow up and be able to get ready to step out on her own. And for me, that's just the greatest accomplishment because a whole nother human being who started out as this little itty bitty, person has now risen up to be such a beautiful young woman, good head on her shoulders, and for me, that's just the greatest accomplishment. And I pray that I can grow to see, my son do the same. He has dreams. He's been talking about it since he was 2.5. I kid you not. This boy has run around with a football every day of his life. He
Nice.
talks about football. He's 12. He knows the commentators. I mean, this boy knows more about football than I do, and I'm a football fanatic, And so his thing is, Mom, I'm going to the NFL and I'm going to be great and I'm going to take care of you. And, I always tell him to have a backup plan. He's like, well, if that don't happen, everything still has to do in the NFL. Well, if I get hurt or if I don't make it to the NFL, I'm gonna be the pastor for the NFL. Or if I can't be the pastor for the NFL, then I'm gonna be a commentator for the NFL. So I'm gonna go to college for communication. So everything is still centered around that, but just to hear him even at 12 talk about his life plans as an adult man, for me, those are just my greatest accomplishments. And I don't really have any regrets, as I can say, and I've learned to say that during the way because everything that has happened bad in my life has made me who I am.
Hmm.
I do have, there's bad decisions that I've made that I wish I couldn't have made. Like I wish at an earlier age, as George was talking about earlier, that I knew how to manage money better. I wish I was taught at a younger age of how to, what it meant or what I really would have contributed to my life had I had a 401k while I was working, how, setting aside money for my children, what that would have meant, the importance of having life insurance policies. None of that was really taught to us and I believe that stuff should be happening between the age of 11 and 15, because those are the crucial years that you're learning math, that you're learning those type of things of working, getting ready to come into that adulthood. Because then if you start working at 16, 17, those are the moments when you should really be amping up, to do those type of things. So for me, I just believe had I learned, been a better steward over those type of things, my financial, my money, regardless of all the other things that have happened in life, I just would have been a little bit well off. And even now as an adult, that's just something I'm really, really working on, is just to really be in a place where I'm self-disciplined enough, that I'm really trying to be somebody who is self-disciplined enough to make sure that I'm not ending up in situations that, like I'm in now. I'll feel transparent enough to say, that, I'm living in a hotel now and it actually was not my fault. Like it wasn't that I wasn't being a good steward. But again, had I had a savings account, had I had a different plan set up, it wouldn't have been such a snatch out of my reality or out of my place or displacement for me and my children. But because, I didn't have that safety net, now here I am in just a little bit of an emergent situation trying to figure things out. So,
All right. Well, we want to thank you for being on the show. Can you tell everybody your social media contact if they want to get in contact with
yes. So, again, I'm on TikTok. It's Heaven Sent. On Instagram, it's Heaven Sent Creations, sent with no E, and then creation is spelled with the 8 instead of an A. And, that's the same thing. You find me on Facebook. It's Lannetta Heaven Sent. So I try to keep everything the same. So it's pretty easy to find me. My email is Heaven Sent. heaven sent events at gmail.com. So everything is centered around heaven sent. You type it in, you should be able to find me.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
one more thing. You got any quick tips you can relate to some of the young ladies out there who listen to the show right quick? That quick 3 quick steps that can help them out and guide them a little bit better before you leave.
Yeah, I would just say one, be your absolute authentic self. Don't be afraid to be who you are. Secondly, if you need help, ask for it. It doesn't matter what it is. Don't be prideful. Don't be so, caught up in whatever is going on that you cannot be afraid to ask help for anything. And, thirdly, when you get that help, don't be so stuck in who you are in your prideful self that you can't take that help and apply it to your life. Because if somebody tells you something, it's just information. But when you apply it to your life and allow it to manifest, then it becomes knowledge that you can carry and pass on.
Well, that's great information. We do greatly appreciate you being on the show. We thank the Lord that you are safe and healthy and your family safe and healthy. And we
Amen.
wish
Thank
you
you.
and your ministry well. And we would definitely love to have you guys back on the show.
Definitely, definitely gotta have you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
We
It's a
greatly
Yes.
appreciate it.
And George, it's so good to see you doing well. I'm glad to see that you're feeling better.
Oh, yeah. I'm still here breathing. God ain't done with me yet.
no,
Yes.
he's too mad over there. Don't say playing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh, man. That was
Yeah.
great. That was
Great
awesome. You
man.
know, excellent story. Excellent story. Um,
It's amazing, man. It's people like that why we can actually change what's going on and make steps towards the right direction.
oh,
We
yeah.
need that now.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. Well, fans, that's our show. Tomorrow we have another great show, believe it or not. We have the artist Boss Lady J on. So
Yeah.
that's going to be an interesting conversation. Um, we want to thank everybody for still staying tuned to the show. And we definitely appreciate Miss Farmer coming on and sharing her story and sharing her ministry. It's not easy to step out on faith. That's the
Exactly.
hardest thing. You know, I remember praying all kinds of prayers, man. Lord, you sure you want me to do this? Really? And to step out on faith, um, how do I say this? To step out on faith proves that you're worthy because,
Yeah.
many are called, but few are chosen. You know what I mean?
That is true.
And so to be able to impart that into young women and young men and do it um, faithfully, that's the hardest part about it too. To continue to be able to do it is definitely a blessing. So we
Exactly.
thank Miss Lynette Farmer for coming on,
Well, definitely.
sharing her ministry and her story, and those life saving stories. To be able to reach out to somebody to let them know that they still value, to be able to save their lives and give them hope.
Exactly.
Those are the stories that really warm our hearts.
Exactly. And you're commended for making that sacrifice
Yeah,
to look above yourself, to
yeah,
see other people as a poison, also as yourself, and learn from that and teach them what your mistakes are to help them not make the exact same mistakes you'll make doing out in life, or teach you how to learn that you will make mistakes, but do you learn from the mistakes? That's
right.
the whole key. Can you learn from the mistakes and not do it again, or actually implement a better path for yourself and help others who doing the exact same thing to give back? That people don't understand. Sometimes you can be successful and you give back in so many different ways you don't even know.
That's right.
By saying hi to somebody, or by saying, "Hey, how you doing? Everything good with you?" Just say hi sometimes. You once in a while, like just before we go to the store, you gotta go out and give a hug to everybody. You know, the hug a day sometimes it saves the person's life the next day
That's
or
right.
the day. Even their life to change the whole life because people tell you what you see about it. Oh, people don't like you because you this color. Don't people like you this color? But you got a black guy running around giving people hugs.
Hmm.
Care what color. He was colorblind. He gave people hugs, you know? And to me, it shows that statement back Knight Rider, one man can't make a difference. It showed that it takes one person to make that initial step in order to improve and people to see you living the life here to actually implement their own life and help embrace that,
No doubt. Well, we're going to keep it there. Don't forget. Oh, again, we want to thank Miss Farmer for coming on to the show. Check out our show tomorrow with Boss Lady J.
Lovely.
Hey, this is George.
Hey, this is Fraser.
And this is Real Talk with George and Fraser. See you guys tomorrow.
You guys tomorrow. 8 o'clock.